We're here at Hatchet Buick GMC of Wichita with a Buick and a GMC.
Hello!
Having fun back there? Joke's on you, it's got great low light performance. This is a 1987 Buick Regal Turbo Grand National. It's what happens when GM engineers get really bored. So this is my friend's Buick Regal Grand National. We're here just taking photos of it, really. He's out of town and he wanted someone to take care of his car, take some pictures. He knew I'd been wanting to get a hold of this thing for a while so I could shoot it. And we got free reign of the dealership service drive to do just that.
Okay. This looks very dignified, but what exactly? Let's explain. Talk through the process here.
It's the reflection dance on the black car.
Ah, yes.
You got to go to school to learn this stuff. It's very technical.
Is that what you did?
That's exactly what I did.
You went to school and they taught you how to.
And then I went to Target and I bought this clearance black fitted sheet.
The actual trick here, now that I'm right in the way of his camera, the actual trick here is using a black sheet known as a scrim. Usually, scrim, right? Yep. See, I know things. Using a scrim to block reflections, in this case, all of this, and get a uniform black on the side of the car. There you go.
Yeah, I was smiling for my picture.
Yeah, were you? Listen to this door close. You've never heard an S10 door sound that nice when it closed. These two very different cars represent one of my favorite things in automotive production, and that is when engineers are allowed to just go absolutely wild and make whatever they want. I mean, I love it when Koenigsegg does it because that's just what that entire company is. It's Christian von Koenigsegg's crazy engineering fever dream. And this is what happens when some Buick engineers go crazy and then jump ship to GMC and go crazy, but more this time. The 3.8 V6 in the Grand National is derived from the earlier Rover V8s and eventually became the 3800 Series 1, 2, 3, and the supercharged variants that I absolutely love. One of my favorite engines for some reason. Couldn't have anything to do with the fact that one was in my first car. In this particular 87, that 3.8 liter V6 is combined with fuel injection, computer-controlled spark. This particular Grand National is pretty much stock, except for the addition of some shock absorbers, a larger intercooler, which you can see here, and it actually looks like it's kind of a 90s performance piece, which I absolutely love. Bigger turbocharger, bigger injectors. The engine's been bored out, though I think that might just be from getting rebuilt at some point. And a full turbo back exhaust that sounds, well, mediocre. It's still a 3800, so it's one of the worst sounding engines ever made, but the absolute symphony coming from that turbocharger just more than makes up for it. The later S10 based Cyclones use the same 4.3 liter V6 that you find in pretty much everything from this era. The Blazer, the S10, full-size Chevy trucks, the Astro van where you sit on it. But in this case, it's just got some different pistons, a single turbocharger, and a water-to-air intercooler. Both of these cars represent engineering test beds and exercises that were some of the fastest cars of their time. They made a few tens of thousands Grand Nationals and just under 3,000 of the Cyclone, making it by far the rarer of the two. But if you want to know more about these, Tyler Hoover did a video about his Typhoon when he had it, which you can probably check out in the link in the description or something, or I'm sure the YouTube algorithm will have it right over there. But I don't think Tyler's done a video on one of these, so I think I'll try and beat him to the punch on this one. The Buick Regal T-Type, the GN, the Grand National, the grandfather of modern turbo performance car. The Grand National is a mid-size performance coupe riding on the GM G body platform. It's black, it's got truck suspension, and a turbocharged V6, of course. But let's talk a bit about what makes these cars special. Clearly, it is black. They're all black. Just like the Ford Model T, you can have it in any color as long as it's black. Visible through the front is this massive air-to-air intercooler, which I believe is an aftermarket edition, and the Turbo 6 motif. This really does strike a very menacing pose. The Grand National has such clean lines that you just don't see anymore these days. Just front to back, nothing is there that doesn't need to be, and it is just the most pure three-box shape you can imagine. On the inside, we have a fairly sparsely equipped interior. You've got the Regal T-Type steering wheel. You've got a horizontal 85-mile-an-hour gauge cluster with a really nifty digital tachometer and boost gauge, which are sadly not entirely functional in this car. A bunch of the LEDs are burned out. The rest of it is pretty bog standard 80s American fare. You've got these sport buckets, and I say sport in big quotation marks. They do about as much to hold you in place as a thing that doesn't hold you in place very well. Looking up at the top, you've got this hilarious dome light that is a literal dome. This looks like something from the bathroom section of your local hardware store. A back seat that exists for tax purposes. A couple of add-ons in the interior here. We've got a turbo boost gauge with some sort of light because of the aforementioned broken factory one. And then there is a water temp and oil pressure gauge down in the center console, sort of like on the Performance Pack 5th gen Camaros and 1st gen Camaros, which is super cool. It is super unnerving not having as many metrics available on the dashboard as you do with modern cars, especially in something like this with a turbocharger. I love America's obsession with this fake chrome plastic stuff. Oh my gosh. 70s General Motors, you are a gem. Let's take a look under the hood anyways. G-body General Motors vehicles have a special security feature where you can't get into the hood unless you know a very specific trick. There we go. Things that are not stock in this interior include this upgraded oil-cooled Garrett turbocharger with a 3-inch downpipe all the way to 3-inch exhaust all the way back. The simply enormous intercooler up front, for which you can see the piping here. There's some upgraded injectors and a fuel pressure regulator there, and I think that's pretty much it. Other than that, this is stock Grand National right here. You can tell this engine bay was definitely made with a V6 in mind. The engine just kind of stops here in like the middle where the tire is, and then there's just another foot of engine bay just kind of chilling there. You can see the ground. Hello. At least it's easy if you drop something. There are a number of technological advancements on display here with the Grand National, a couple of which that are immediately obvious are these fuel injectors here. This car does have multi-point fuel injection instead of throttle body fuel injection like most cars of this era, or, carburetors. Chevy trucks didn't even get multi-point fuel injection until the 2000s with the LS engine, if you don't count the weird poppet valve spider thing. Boost noises come out of here. From the factory, I think this put out about 230 horsepower. This one's putting out more. Here comes the sound of quality. The interior really isn't that bad of a place to be, though. The ergonomics are pretty good. The steering wheel feels nice. Everything just kind of falls to hand. It's fairly comfortable. I'd really just kind of say it's adequate. But what's above adequate is the actual driving experience. This car has theater. This is just an absolutely dramatic thing going down the road. You get into the gas and the turbo starts spooling up. The whistling starts intensifying. The engine starts, moaning. The exhaust note's not great, but the turbo is just the icing on the cake that is this car. Clearly, it is its party trick. The boost comes on and you start getting pushed back further into your seat. The car pitches back slightly. All the noises just continue to intensify, and then when you let off the gas, a ridiculous amount of turbo chatter. It absolutely beats the pants off of any dubstep bass drop. But there's no better way to talk about the driving dynamics of a car than actually driving it, so let's go do that. Now, if I may draw an incredibly strange parallel, this reminds me a lot of the Mazda Speed Miata that I reviewed a little while ago. It has that old school turbo charm, lots of drama, lots of noise. Not a world beater, except this one is, but my gosh, the experience. You can't keep your foot out of it. The whole time you're driving it, you're in the gas, out of the throttle, in the throttle, out of the throttle, in the throttle, out of the throttle, so you can hear the turbo spool, so you can hear the turbo chatter, and hear everything that the car has to offer. It's all in the sound. You can't just cruise in this. You can't just go one speed. You just have to always be... Yes, more of that. As far as the suspension goes, yeah, well, that's pretty grim, really. This thing does handle like an actual boat. It's wallowy and inconsistent and real vague. The biggest praise I can really give the suspension is that it works, and there is no major rattles or looseness, really. Okay, maybe there is some looseness, but it's to be expected. The boost goes positive almost immediately, and you get successive surges of power. All the while, the engine is humming along, just wrapped out against the torque converter. The transmission really isn't much to write home about. It's a 4-speed overdrive, well, 3-speed with overdrive is how it's referred to. I actually don't even know what it is. I think it's related to the TH350 maybe? It works, sort of. I think this one's hurting a little bit due to the extra power, but for the most part it moves the car along and sloshes its way between gears like you'd expect an automatic from the 80s to do. I will say it does kick down really readily. When you want more power, it's just there. As far as modern conveniences go, don't expect to find much in the way of equipment in here. This car has air conditioning and an AC Delco stereo, and that's it. Oh, cruise control, supposedly. It doesn't work here, but, you know, in theory. Interestingly, these cars have a limited slip rear differential, which is a pretty great feature in a car like this that puts down decent power numbers, because it means you'll hook, and it means you'll go straight once you do. And it does, very well, even when traction is kind of iffy. Oh! So where does all this leave us, other than sitting in a Buick in my driveway? The Buick Regal Grand National is a host of technological achievements wrapped in a very sinister looking shell. It's quick and makes all the right noises, but don't expect it to go around a corner worth a darn, though honestly it doesn't really have to be able to do that. I think these cars trade somewhere around $20,000 these days, and really, you could drive this every day and there would be a problem. I would do it. I'd definitely do it. It's a fast sofa on wheels. I'm not sure what more you want. Thanks for watching. Can you tell I got a new camera? Let me know in the comments what you think of it. It's a Sony ZV-1. I'm quite a big fan, honestly. This thing looks nice. Unfortunately, now you can see how bad I am at shaving. Problematic. Oh well.